Welcome to the Somewhat Frank podcast, hosted by me, Frank Gruber, and joined by my friends and colleagues, Jen Consalvo and John Guidos. This podcast explores the latest trends and advancements in technology and business, including emerging startups and how they shape today while looking forward towards the future. We also enjoy testing new gadgets and products and sharing our findings too, along with our favorite pop culture picks like music, books, and what we're streaming. This podcast is produced in collaboration with our company, Established. Ready to dive in? Time to be somewhat frank. Welcome back to the Somewhat Frank podcast. I'm Frank Gruber, your host. Today I'm joined by Johnny Goodtimes Guidos, Jen Consalvo your problems, and Simon the Machine Khan. Welcome you all. How are y'all doing? You make proverbially a woohoo.
Frank, why we all have nicknames. Why don't you go by your nickname as well at the beginning?
Which one is it?
FJ Gruber the Fifth.
Oh, yeah. I mean, for a very long time, I went by FJ.
Or so Frank the Tank, one of the two.
Yeah. Those are my nicknames for sure, as well as Somewhat. No, I don't go by Somewhat. All right, so let's roll here. We've got a lot to talk about today, including OpenAI's reverse course on the direction they're going with their company, recommitting to nonprofit roots. Elon Musk is building his own city. Chobani, the yogurt, doubles down on dairy with a big effort in a state we'll talk about. ChatGPT sparks some strange delusions. I don't know if you've been using ChatGPT and you've gotten a little delusional, but we're going to talk about it. And Theranos, we've got this deja vu kind of return with a slight doggy twist. So looking forward to talking about that one as well. All right, before we get started, I want to go around the horn. It's been a bit. So Johnny Goodtimes, let's talk about what you've been up to lately. Ready, go.
What I've been up to, just got back from Miami, went down there for a nice little spring break trip. It's gardening season, so we went and bought a bunch of plants and planters and those sorts of things. And then I've never been to the Indy 500 and just bought some tickets to go. I think it's in 2 weekends, so excited about that. But I've also heard like terrible stories about it as well. Like you're amongst hundreds of thousands of people. The bathrooms and the food lines are really bad. So I was almost talked out of it, but we'll see. I'll report back after we go.
That's pretty cool. I've never been to the race itself, but I've been to the course, and that reminds me. This last week reminded me. I got a bunch. You know how you get those memories via Facebook or whatever. Like this just happened 10 years ago or whatever, and I got one around the Rise of the Rest tours. So I don't know if those aren't familiar, but the Rise of the Rest is a fund, and it started as just a bunch of tours with Steve Case, the founder of AOL, where we literally got on a bus and went to 5 different cities, each city being a stop with literally meeting the governors, mayors, co-working spaces, places that people come together to create innovation, college campuses, and then we'd end it with a pitch competition with local companies and a fireside chat. So I had a privilege of going on about most of those tours, about 40 different cities, and anyway, we went to Indy, and I got to kiss the bricks on the I guess racetrack. It's the thing you do when they win, right? So I got to actually do that, and it was kind of cool. So I've had a lot of those like random memories. The one that happened recently though, that was 10 years ago, was we were in Raleigh, Durham, and Raleigh, Durham was one of the second stops on one of the first tours, and it threw some memories. And one of them was we were all, remember the movie Bull Durham? Well, that's an actual baseball team. It's a minor league team, the Durham Bulls, and so went to their stadium. We all had jerseys on that said it was 2015, so we had jerseys with our names on the back, and it said 15. And everything was kind of like we had these like really interesting moments. And Steve threw out the first pitch at the game that night. But I got to do the fireside chat that night in Raleigh and interviewed Steve. I did a bunch of different times, but that was a memorable one. Mainly because in Raleigh, Durham, it's 2 different cities, and it was very spread out. And in the morning, right, we met at the governor's mansion, and right after the governor's mansion, my iPhone bricked, like totally bricked. Like, and I'm supposed to be taking photos, and we're a media company, so I'm supposed to be covering this. I didn't have a way to do that, so I had to like call a Apple store and then take an Uber to pick one up and come back and meet them. And obviously, it was they're moving from place to place, and I just remember it being a little bit like hectic as I was trying to find them as they moved from like location to location. But lots of fun memories like that along the way as you go on these different tours. So, all right, that's a whole tangent. But anyway, Jen, what are you up to?
It was a beautiful weekend, starting with Frank's birthday. So we had some celebrations on Friday, big dinner, all kinds of festivities. It was also Mother's Day weekend. So we had there were flowers, there were pastries, there was some beach walk time. It was really lovely. And for the first weekend in a long time, I felt like we had some sunshine, some warmth, and we could get outside, which was like amazing because we've had like pretty much torrential rain for a while. So it felt really good. And even right now, it's green outside. I can see the sun. It's amazing. Life is good.
Yeah, it's been really nice today and yesterday. The rest of the time it was raining though. All right. But you know what's funny? I actually do appreciate the rain now more than ever. Like,
That's because you're a gardener.
right, I have plants and grass that I'm trying to like keep alive, and you don't want to have to like go out there and do it yourself. So Mother Nature is very
You
nice.
guys, if it goes like 20 minutes without rain, Frank gets the hose.
Well, you got to keep them fed. All right, Simon, what are you up to?
Well, a fun and healthy development in my life is I'm now into sports gambling, which I don't advocate to anyone listening. I gambled for the first time on the Knicks Pistons series. And I'm in New York, so I've been watching the Knicks. And out of nowhere, like I won like $300. And
Uh-oh.
I know. And so every single game now I've bet money and it's awful. So I made money once, felt the rush. Haven't been able to succeed since then, but I'm sure my luck will turn around. But watching the Knicks, trying to not gamble and do my thing. But everything's going great.
Good. Yeah, they're good. They're doing all right, right?
Yeah, they're
Uh,
playing Celtics tonight, I believe.
yeah, Boston won it last year, and so it's gonna be interesting. All right. So yeah, Boston's not playing that well though, from what I understand.
Yeah, they weren't playing. They did win the other day. I feel like we play worse at the Garden, so
Yeah.
I think tonight's at the Garden as well.
Yep. All right. Yeah, so for me, I've been celebration mode. I'm a Taurus, so I just had a birthday and posted some thoughts over on LinkedIn about the big 4-7. Um, and yeah, it was a good weekend. We had some Mother's Day and spring prep. Jen mentioned it's been raining a lot, but I've been like prepping everything because I feel like in this part of the country, especially in Maine, um, you kind of I get this anxiety around like you have to like take advantage of the days, and it's been raining a lot, but people start coming to visit and in the summer, and I kind of want to just have everything ready. Like I don't want to be like worried about like anything. So I don't know, Jen, you don't worry about that stuff?
I worry about the inside more. That's where my thoughts are. Like, you guys, I have become a green thumb. It's just insane. My plants inside they've exploded. And I worry more about like just getting everything inside prepped. Frank worries more about the outside, the curb appeal.
Yeah, so like moving mulch and making the trees live and adding more trees and making the grass green and making sure the birds are fed and all that kind of stuff.
I just want everyone to hear that. Making sure the birds are fed. The outside birds,
Yep, just in case.
just in
It's
case.
been a long winter. They need to eat too. So, all right. Today we got a lot to talk about, so let's jump in. We got a bunch of AI related news. So let's talk about OpenAI changing their course. So I don't know if you guys caught this, but like they originally were going to be going down this course of creating a for-profit company. There were a bunch of lawsuits against that. Elon Musk threw up his hands around that as well because he was an early um, part of this company and spun out of it and doing his own thing with his ex or whatever. But long story short, they've now shifted back to going back to the nonprofit uh, realm and not converting to a fully for-profit company or model. And so it's just a different approach. I don't know if they must have gotten some roadblocks because I know Sam Altman, CEO, was really pushing to try to make it a for-profit company, and he lost some good people on his team around that debate. So and then there's a whole debate around, is AI good and all that stuff. But anyway, does anyone want to jump in?
Yeah, I think it's a lot of posturing, right? Because non-for-profit just on its face seems a lot less threatening, let's call it. And there is this idea of, ChatGPT, where it gets its data to learn from, is a lot of it's copyrighted material. So, you're going to fight a non-for-profit that's trying to quote unquote like benefit the world in the future, or a for-profit that can be looked at as a huge conglomerate that's, trying to do terrible things in the world. So I'm sure there's a lot more legal posturing that's involved with all of that, or some ethical debates and those sorts of things. But I don't know that we'll ever know the full extent of what the implications actually are. I'm sure there's plenty, but I think it's just mostly a branding maneuver for the most part.
Yeah, it makes a huge difference, right? Like you're thinking, oh, it's a nonprofit. Oh, they just are trying to do good versus like when you said it right, right? Like when you become a profitable company and it is a humongous company, people are going to look at it differently. They're going to look at it as like, oh God, they're trying to take, and you know, it's a different approach. So I don't know. Anybody else want to weigh in on this?
Well, and that's partially why I'm guessing that's why Musk isn't dropping his suit. Right. So they're going to go to trial sometime next year. And he's basically saying like the fact that they're moving to a nonprofit doesn't change anything, that they can still, obfuscate, there's not enough transparency, et cetera. Not that I'm a fan of the lawsuit, but I think it gets to what John's saying is that maybe there's still more there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, the lawsuit was around accusing them of being, abandoning their nonprofit mission. So there might have to be a change to the focus a little bit. But yeah, I see he's definitely not happy with the way they're going. And obviously it is a competitor, right, at this point, because he's got his own AI tool he's building. He's built, I guess you call it, and raised a bunch of money for. And obviously he's going to be competitive with this. So trying to, like you said, posture each of them, trying to posture to get in that position of, being a little bit better received, I guess, and also, trying to win the space. All right, so we'll leave that. We'll talk about Mr. Musk a little bit more, and then we'll move on. But he's made more news last week with this inside. There's a report around inside Starbase. Do you guys know what Starbase is? It's this town. It was officially incorporated as a city with a 212-6 vote. Most of the voters being SpaceX employees, though, or their relatives. And no traditional campaigning around this occurred. It was just like, do we want to be a city? Yeah, I'll say yeah. I mean, I'd like to know who the six that said no, or talk to them about that. But about 280 people were eligible to vote. It's basically he's created a city just outside of Austin, Texas, and it houses Boring Company, SpaceX. I think Tesla too. Like, there's a bunch of stuff there, right? That are all like the heads of his companies, and kind of created a corporate town, I guess you call it. Nearby, near Brownsville, Texas as well. So, anyway, it's interesting. I know there was some buzz on the memes and things around this because of the fact that there's a huge statue of Elon Musk, right, in the city somewhere.
Yeah, I think I like personally, I don't have any issue with the idea. It's probably pretty convenient for the workers, and more infrastructure and housing is great. I think if you ever have to drive by like a 6 foot tall bust of who is creating the town, it's a little strange. But I have no issue with it. I think it's probably pretty convenient for the workers.
It's very Severance-y. I don't know. It reminds me of Severance a little bit.
Yeah, definitely.
The whole idea of
The big Musk like statue. I mean,
yeah.
doesn't look real.
I was just looking at like other, thinking about other corporate cities, which the whole idea of it is a little weird, right? But I was just looking like Hershey, Pennsylvania. So that was
Chocolate.
Set up by Hershey. A little less daunting, right? Like, it's fun, chocolate, not so much like, again, like the giant bust.
Have you ever been there? I just want to ask you. Have you ever been there, Hershey?
No.
I've been there.
It smells like chocolate.
Oh yeah.
Like the town, literally in the air, it smells like chocolate.
I could get down with that.
I want to ask Jen and Frank about it, because you two, I don't want to glaze over it. You two lived in Tony Hsieh's little end of the world, right? I mean, and I came to visit you all, and you lived there, but like as an outsider, I thought it was pretty strange. I'm not gonna lie.
But it was Las Vegas. It wasn't incorporated as its own city. It wasn't like it didn't have any of that sort of separate overtone. There might be some, like, if you think about, I was just reading up on Starbase, like, they have like the tiny homes and stuff like that. The the Airstreams, which is very,
Very
John,
Tony.
as you said, that's definitely reminiscent of like when Tony had started building out all the tiny homes and Airstreams and stuff. But he was, I can't even imagine Tony having built a giant bust of himself. Like he tried to make it more about the community. I don't know.
It would be a Burning Man statue.
Yeah, right. Like the giant praying mantis that's still there in the park, right?
Or
Like
that
that is
big
the
rig
tribute.
jig, like it was the big rig jig. If you look that up, it's a bunch of semi trucks like in a statue that are all like standing on each
Yeah.
other. Crazy.
My first thought goes to when you're isolated like that, or you're so ingrained with the community, it seems a little cultish.
Mhm.
I know that everybody kind of shies away from that word, and I'm not suggesting that because Lord knows I don't know what's going on down there. Maybe it's not the case, but I know from, when you go to some of these campuses, some of these company campuses, everybody gets a little excited about what the company's doing. And it does come off a little cultish. So that was the first thing that came to my mind.
Well, there's definitely a lot of overlap between personal and professional. You're literally living in the
Yeah.
town
Oh,
that
yeah.
are it's you lose a little bit of I don't want to say freedom. Yeah, I guess a little bit of freedom, right? Like you're not in your own world, right? You're in the world of where you work. And I think that's the difference. But if you're all in, and that's what he's looking for, I guess, you're gonna work harder, you're gonna, you know, be all in all the time, right? You're probably gonna be it's more convenient, right, and all that. So they elected the vice president from SpaceX, Bobby Pendon, is the mayor, which is cool. They've got their own mayor, and instead of going with the council, they went with the mayor, and they have a couple commissioners. So interestingly, it's kind of how it's set up, and I guess it becomes interesting when they all of a sudden do they need like other resources, right? Like, do they need water? Do they need like I don't know,
Which they
electricity?
do. They need to build out their infrastructure.
Right.
I
Yeah.
think John, what you said is really interesting about, it has a slightly cultish flavor. And I think what really emphasized that for me is the fact that 2/3 of the population there are men in the average age of 27.
Wow.
That's not a lot of diversity in terms of like a thriving population, like a city.
That's
Like that.
Dudeville.
What's that?
Dudeville. It's like
I don't like
Oh,
those. I don't like
that's
those.
bro culture to the max.
We would have left a party like that back in college, right? Like those numbers
Absolutely.
those
we're
numbers don't
dead here.
sound
We're
very
out.
good.
Maybe there should have been more like a grad school campus.
Yeah.
Maybe there's another campus where all the women live and they get to invite them over. And I don't
And
know.
now it's just getting weird.
Yeah, it is weird. Yeah, it's kind of weird. I
I
don't
find I find the fact that the mayor is a vice president at SpaceX a little concerning because I feel like eventually there's going to come a point when like the governance of the community, the objectives might differ from like the benefit of the company, and the conflict of interest there might be
Oh, 100%.
detrimental to like the citizens living there if everything's determined by an executive at the company they work at. It's a little creepy.
Well, that's the thing. The whole thing is for the company, right? That's the reason they have this. Like there is no difference. Like I think that's the interesting thing. Is like
Very severancy.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll wait till their school opens. That'll be interesting.
Yeah. What are they going to teach?
Right.
Hmm.
Who knows? It may be a utopia and beautiful, and everybody's kind and super safe. We don't know. It's hard to judge other people. I hope that's the case, right?
In reality, it's only like a mile and a half long. Like it's not that big, but but it is interesting to think about and see like, just what happens to it. Again, the whole, the cult of Musk is what makes this provocative. Because if everyone's going to want to drive by and see the bust, and there's a public highway that goes through there, I believe, and a beach that they close off. So yeah.
I mean, it isn't much different. Like John mentioned Tony and Zappos, and he was trying to create a city that was livable. Now the difference is he didn't incorporate it. He let people have the freedom of it still being Vegas, and let people be around, and they could choose where they're going to live. This is like you're all living in the city, right? And you're working here. I don't know. I don't think you don't have to, I guess. I don't think it's like if you're going to work here, you're going to live here. I don't know if that's a thing in their contracts, but it might be, right? So I think that's the difference. People had a little more freedom, but definitely, it's definitely interesting. It's definitely interesting. I mean, we lived there, right, in downtown Vegas, but we were not employees of Zappos. We were just friendlies of like the community. We had a partnership with downtown projects. So it's a little bit, and there's a lot of people that were doing that, and so I think that's the difference. Is we were all doing it, proactively on our own to try to make it a better place versus we're going to make this city our, buy this land and make this our city kind of thing.
I think we're also making some assumptions that, right, that people want to live there. I think some of this, is my understanding, is out of necessity because the base has to be out in the middle of nowhere for safety reasons, and the people need somewhere to live so they don't have to commute so far. So they're giving them an opportunity to live closer to the base, right? So,
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, part of it, my understanding is it's, to be doing all of this many launches, it has to be pretty isolated. So I think that's part of the reason for it
Yeah,
as well.
that makes sense. So 212, I mean, these are really devoted employees, right? Like that 212 people want to live here and their relatives. So it's interesting.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I think it's really interesting that they want to throw that in on the company. I mean, go for it. Launch rockets. All right, moving on. How many people like yogurt? I actually wanted to have yogurt this morning, but I didn't have time. Um, so Chobani's founder, Hamdi Ulukaya, is investing $1.6 billion in a state-of-the-art dairy farm in upstate New York. And so he's basically um, decided to manufacture this processing plant and farm because they need so much milk to make Chobani. And it's going to create 1,000 full-time jobs, and it's going to support a lot of, he's obviously getting support from the state to do this too, but it's interesting. It's really cool that they're building in America. And for those not familiar, America's top yogurt brand is Chobani with $3 billion. It's a lot of yogurt, $3 billion in annual revenue. And so obviously it's going to continue to expand their efforts in the United States. And yeah, I think it's great. So it's sustainable. I guess it's sustainable farming in upstate New York. Any thoughts? Anybody wants to make you want yogurt?
Oh yeah, I mean, I love their products, and it just makes sense that they're rolling their proceeds back into the company to for the betterment of the company, right? And I thought it was interesting upstate New York because I know that a lot of businesses are moving out of places like New York and Illinois and those sorts of things, but I do see that they incentivized Chobani to stay there, so that makes sense. And upstate New York's absolutely beautiful from from the few times I've been through there, so good for them.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know exactly where the location is. I don't think they said, but um,
I
oh no,
believe
Rome, Rome, Rome. I read that wrong. Right, Rome, New York. Yeah, so that's interesting. What is that by? I have to look that up. Um, and they're also expanding. They have an Idaho plant as well. So 500 million dollars in expanding their company's Idaho plant. So two U.S. plants with a lot of potential for hiring people that need to do this, work to help them build their Chobani empire, basically. Pretty cool. All right, so moving along. Unless anyone wants to talk about yogurt more, makes me hungry. All right, so we've got ChatGPT users. We're all ChatGPT users. Have you ever had bizarre delusions from using ChatGPT? Apparently, people are getting them. A woman described in this current article I shared is that her husband was obsessed with ChatGPT to the point it actually ended their marriage. He was basically having, conspiracy theories, emotional reactions to AI-generated spiritual messages, basically talking to this AI-driven spiritual kind of situation, asking lots of questions and develop beliefs around different things. So um, they should put a warning on ChatGPT, right?
Yeah, I think they should. And Frank knows this, and I've been testing a lot of different prompts lately with AI. I've been actually trying to branch out and use other platforms other than ChatGPT. We'll talk about that later. But um, one of the things I did with ChatGPT, because obviously it's scraped the Bible, you would think it has, right? One of the most publicized books of all time is, given, prompts something like act as an expert and given everything that you know about the Bible, talk to me as though you are God. And you could ask it questions and, ask for some sort of therapy, or I'm going through a tough time. Do you have any sorts of words of wisdom and that sort of thing? And, I like to think that I'm balanced enough that I don't take it very critically, right? I think of it as a tool and something that I'm goofing around with. but there are a lot of people out there that are in different mental states and different psychological situations going on with them. And you could see that they have this source of knowledge that they could go to and talk to about all of their problems, how it could start influencing them. And, you know, I mean, you can write a movie off of this idea, but so yeah, I think that a warning, as you said, Frank, or a disclaimer, if they don't already have one, could probably be well advised.
Yeah, I find that lately I've noticed it more, but it seems like ChatGPT routinely just reinforces what you're trying to get it to maybe say about you, or at least in my case it has. So it never gives you any pushback. So I could totally see someone, you know, with some outlier beliefs and like kind of out there thoughts, just getting constantly reinforced because that's sort of what it's designed to do. And I can absolutely see how that might lead someone down a tricky path.
Mm-hmm.
There's this whole other side. So John, you were talking about the Bible. Well, I was doing some quick searches, and I've heard, you know, I listened to some interesting podcasts, and I'd heard that people, some people were claiming that AI was, that there was channeling happening, so spirits coming through and talking to them through AI. So if you look up, this is where it gets wild, and exactly what you're saying, like anyone who's like looking for spiritual advisors or whatever it might be, if you do some searches like on TikTok, there are loads and loads of videos of people explaining to you how to awaken your AI, how to like channel loved ones through AI, all, you name it, and millions of views
Wow.
across these videos. So, you know, there's this hunger across the world, right? At least in Western countries of, you know, for this kind of content, because people are so desperate for that guidance, that connection, whatever it might be. Maybe some, you know, obviously novelty as well and fun, but that is out there. And so if people are searching for it and getting all these TikToks, I can't even imagine the percentage of searches and conversations happening in ChatGPT and other AI apps about this type of thing.
Yeah, it's really interesting too because, well, as long as we have machines that can process this AI and present the results, um, nothing's ever going to die again. Like your essence is always going to live because you've got this ability to like it can, you know, the AI version of you will be out there. And we've talked about this before, right? So I think it's a really interesting that, you know, they're able to still do it around things that are like older, so like going to the Bible or, you know, going to these kind of spiritual realms. So it's a really interesting thought, you know, to go down a rabbit hole. I can see people that are maybe, like you said, are not, or want to believe, right? Like want to believe in something this else or whatever are gonna maybe go down that. Now, Jen, you introduced me to something that I just never, wasn't doing, and I've been doing it more since you told me about it. But it's really simple. It's like on a ChatGPT and probably other platforms as well. You ask it to check its work, which I didn't realize it's wrong a lot, like a
Yes.
lot.
Mm.
And you
Yep.
don't realize it, and it's like, oh yeah, you're right. I'm so sorry. I just didn't realize that I was incorrect. You're correct. And again, that goes back to what you were saying, Simon, of like it does kind of want to like make you, you know, happy more or
Yeah.
less around like
It wants you to like it.
right, exactly. So good example, like the other day I was writing a song and I was like, I don't know how to, I don't actually know chords and stuff. Like I mean I do know chords, but I don't know every like what's every note, like what's every. So I took a picture of my hands and I was like, hey, what note is this on this at this, you know, place in the fretboard? And I sent it to ChatGPT and I like asked it, what is this? Like what would that be if it was like capoed at whatever? It took it like 20 minutes to actually give me the right answer, and it was wrong. I kept saying, no, that's not right, because I knew what it was. And it's like, that's not right. Please check your work again. And we just kept going and going and going. It's like finally, it's like, you're right. This is what it should be. I'm like, if I was following that word for word, and granted, that's like a really not like, you know, not a life or death situation, but like if it was, that's really terrible, right?
Yeah, no, the I discovered that just doing simple spreadsheet. I was asking it for like giving it some inputs around spreadsheets, like please categorize this information, etc., and noticing that there were discrepancies. Like because I was just double checking it. But, you know, it's sometimes you're doing this work. I mean, it's for a client, it's important. You've got to double check your work. So I was double checking something and it was 100% wrong.
Mm.
And so literally just typed in like, you sure about that? Like, have you double checked this work? And it was like, oh, my mistake. That was, thank you for whatever. Like, here it is. I'm like, maybe double check that again. And then it's like, oh, yes, you're right. And oh my God.
Wow, that's crazy. And that's simple, like add, addition, right? Like
Yeah,
it's
no,
adding rows like together.
it was not complex work. It was not designing algorithms. This was like
Wow.
sorting and counting.
So check your work, ChatGPT and every other platform. Gemini.
Anyone using it.
Yeah,
Yes.
any AI, have it check his work. Interesting. I got kind of keyed off on it making mistakes all of a sudden because it's like, can you show me a picture of what this note looks like on a guitar fretboard with, show me like the actual hands. What would his hands look like? And it sent me a picture back of a person with like 6 fingers. And it was like, I'm like, that doesn't look right. That does not look right. And it was like not in the right position. It was like it was like, you're trying really hard, but like, you don't know what you're talking about.
Do
So
they have an extra finger like off the
I,
pinky side of your
I don't
hand?
know. And I know that
I
can
often
happen.
thought
I'm not
about
trying to
how
make fun of anybody. It's just like and also it was capos. There was a capo and it had fingers on both sides of this capo, which you would never do. So anyway, it
I
was,
might be able to play guitar if I had an extra finger.
you had 6 fingers. I often think about how cool it would be if we had 6 fingers and a tail.
yeah, we used to have tails, I think. That's
I
what I
know.
have
I have good tails still.
yeah.
This is just going downhill.
Yeah. Anyway, let's move along to some blood testing, because this is going to get people really going. Remember Theranos, founder Elizabeth Holmes. She's got a partner, Billy Evans. And of course, she was actually convicted for basically, uh, I guess it was fraud. I don't remember what was she actually convicted of. Because let me look that up. What was the actual charges? But more or less, was it charged?
Defrauding investors, I believe.
Yeah, it was defrauding investors. I knew that, but I didn't know if there's something else. So anyway, I haven't watched her. There's like a whole movie about it. But anyway, long story short, she was doing this blood testing diagnostic startup and got in a situation where it wasn't necessarily working out, and maybe they made some false claims and things of that nature. So anyway, her partner has created a new company which is called Hamaneth. Hamaneth? Is that right? Hamaneth? Hamanthus, which aims to revolutionize health by testing with pets and eventually humans. So sounds like a similar kind of thing. The startup's prototype is, kind of resembles what Theranos is supposed to create this product where you put one little sample of blood in. It was supposed to do all the tests. Right? That's what Theranos was. Anyway, the device looks similar, but this time it's using lasers to analyze blood, saliva, and urine, and it claims detecting illnesses like cancer in seconds. So, gosh, it sounds very eerily familiar to Theranos. But not to be said, we actually invested in a company too recently, a while back that was doing something similar. And it is possible to do these types of tests, but not necessarily with a device. You can do it in different ways in a lab. Now, I don't know if they were able to figure out how to do it in one swoop. So there's definitely interest, there's definitely science behind being able to do things like this. It's just I'm not, sure if that device is doing it yet. But anyway, they've raised some initial funds. They're raising another $15 million funding round, looking for a long-term vision of basically having this wearable that you could basically be diagnosed with things all the time. So, they've gotten some declines, obviously, from VCs. Would you guys invest in this, knowing the history?
No, not knowing the history, but a company like this, I mean, like you said, this technology is available. I believe that she was just fudging the numbers a little bit to different levels of accuracy and also the number of things that you can accurately predict or derive from the sample, right? Instead of like, we can test for 5 different diseases. I'm making these numbers up. 5 different diseases, one drop of blood. She was saying that she could, to a certain level of accuracy, see 150 different diseases, something like that. So, but yeah, I mean, so they kind of know the game, I think. But I do know that the technology is there and it's it's getting better. But just given the background and the history of it, I think I'd shy away from this one.
Okay. Yeah, I don't. Anyone else want to
Again,
jump
that's
in?
my opinion, right? So
Yeah.
I don't know
I
enough
mean,
about it.
just reading about it a little bit, the fact that she's still developing technologies, she's still working from prison and advising and sharing with him, it just feels too close. Like if he legitimately wants to create something to get investment, he needs to create more separation. He needs to demonstrate something completely different. And why stay that close to something that has already impacted their family so greatly? Just feels I don't know, like bring it outside the family. If you have something great, bring in some other CEO, bring in someone who can maybe create some distance. But this just feels kind of I don't know, optimistic on his part.
Oh,
Can I throw
right.
can I throw a sort of devious takeout? Is that, and probably a naive take, is maybe because there's so much scrutiny on him and his partner and their previous fraudulent activity, maybe it's actually a phenomenal investment because they know how many eyes are going to be on them when they know they can't get it wrong, which is like a super naive, optimistic view. But like, I don't know, maybe
I like it, Simon.
I think I would. I think I'm with you.
To do it again, you know.
I'm with you. I'm with you, Simon. I feel like I would, and this people might come after me for this one. I would invest in her. Or him. I'm sorry.
Smart, or they're both smart, probably.
I mean,
fool me twice, and
no, it's not. I'm not saying that. I would obviously do my due diligence to make sure it's right. But I think the thing that's different and important here is the model, right? We invested in a company similar to Theranos, and it didn't work out. It was a lab. It was expensive. A lot of moving parts. Like repeat users, tough. Like we have another one that we're involved in, and repeat users are tough. Like basically reoccurring users. Because you do a test, right? You do a blood test. You aren't doing it like every day. You're not doing you might do it every year or every couple years, right? If you're watching something, but if it's just like to figure out, like, I don't know, it's not a subscription model.
Depends on the test, right? Like even the ones that test for 50 different cancers, you and I were just discussing we might do that every 2 years. That is
I'm gonna do it every 16 months. So that is a recurring one, just because I want to see if there's indicators, because I don't want to do a scan to figure it out, right? Don't have to do like colonoscopy every
so there are models out there.
Yeah. Right. No, I get it. But I guess my point is if it's wearable or they've got a different paradigm for this, you might be willing to pay a subscription model, similar like I'm paying for Aura, which I will talk about here in a second. We can kind of dive into our testing thing here in a minute. Aura's Ring, which I talked about before, has now continued to evolve, and they've got now this AI advisor. And now, and this kind of dates back in the day, like there used to be this thing where you could take a picture of food and share it, like food spotting, things like that, were apps. They came through our program and they did well and they exited all that. But that was just more just like fun to share with people what you've eaten and where you can eat it. This is literally taking a picture of your food. It analyzes it quickly and says, here's all the things you ate, that were on that plate. And it was high in fiber, it was high in protein, had a little bit more sugar than you like, blah blah blah, and it gives you like it looks like you're doing great with that, whatever. So it's really smart. It's using AI really smartly, and I guess what I'm saying is I can see a similar setup with this if it's like constantly checking things, and people like to track things. I like to track things, that, Jen. I like to track all my
Everything
health related things, as we try to live till we're 250 years old. But you know what I mean. So I think that's the interesting thing here. So I guess I would give the fact she's in prison, she will get out. It's not her company, it's his, obviously, but they're very tied. But it's interesting. I think it's really interesting. I'd love to hear the pitch. So Billy Evans, send us to somewhatfrank@est.us. We'd love to see it.
The other reason he'll probably raise it is because he's a hotel heir. I mean, he's got connections. He's probably going to be able to raise that in a weekend.
Who is starting a company with friends and family around and just got a New York Times article about your company? Like, no one. You don't get press like that as a startup, right? So obviously, like Simon mentioned, it's going to give them, like, they're out there already, and now it's just going to be a matter of building this and seeing if they can actually make it work. So obviously they're gonna fail hard if it doesn't, right? So I've already done that once. So I don't know. It does a little bit though remind me of like Fire Festival. Remember that one? It's coming back for those not familiar.
They already scrapped the second one.
Oh, did they?
They claimed bankruptcy. Yeah, so they did the exact same thing that they did the first time. Two times around.
Fool me twice.
Fool me twice. All right. Well, so we need to see that pitch deck, and we need to test out that product versus like just smoke and mirrors. It's got to be a little bit further along than a prototype that just looks like a thing, right? I think that's the key. You got to have a little bit of traction with this one, so we don't get fooled twice. But like I said, it's the model of reoccurring revenue that's important, not just like you can do this once. All right, so moving along. I like to give people second chances, I think. I don't know. Anyway.
Not when it's my money.
Yeah, I get it. Testing 1, 2, 3. So I mentioned Aura. interestingly, I got this note, and Jen and I both kind of looked into this deeper. She really dove down the rabbit hole here. But I got this like registered mail saying in my mailbox saying like, "Hey, you've got an unclaimed item or something." It was really vague, and so I had to look it up online in the state. And what it is apparently like if you move, there's these like, things sometimes don't get sent to your current address, like they get sent to the old address, and then they get sent back to the state. And the state has all this extra mail of yours. And if it's like financial, they like take it and hold on to it and then log it and then like have it on a website somewhere. So if you look it up, it's like there's a claim number and all that. You can go and like find your assets that were like yours or whatever. So I had this amount of money that I guess was sitting from another state or from another address or something like that, and it was able to find it and get it sent to me from Maine. And then that's, I guess, because I moved from another location. But then we started looking at other states. And Jen, how much did you find?
I mean, across the two of us, it was at least, I don't know,
$1,000.
like probably close to it. It was a decent chunk of money. So if you've moved around a lot, it's definitely worth it. I know other people have done this before, but it's every state has an unclaimed, I think it's unclaimed property website, and you just enter your information and scroll through and just try to find your name, and it'll say like, you have funds that are under $50 or between $50 and $100, whatever. And once you click submit, they might ask for some additional information to verify who you are. And if they if they agree that it's you, then you just get a check in the mail. And so we've been getting some checks. It's kind of fun.
Yep. And things like when you disconnect the cable and your whatever, and then you move somewhere, right? They send you a refund and you never got it. So pretty funny. Have you guys ever done that? Did you know about this?
I've never done it. I feel like my mom's told me about stuff like this, these that she sees on the news, but I've never done it. I did get some old checks in the mail one time, and I tried to deposit them, but they said that they had expired or something like that. So
So they
I'm
might
actually,
still be there. That I think some of the money that I got back had been checks that I got, and then I moved and I never cashed them. And then I went online, they were from Virginia. And I just went online and decided, oh, I'm going to check Virginia. I lived there for a long time. And I had a bunch of money in Virginia and I just got the check.
Yeah. So searching unclaimed property, find your old mail, find your funds. You might be surprised. You have it's like your little savings account in every state you've lived in.
Claim your dollars.
Dollar bills. All right, let's move on. Johnny, you were testing some things. I was testing some things hard, trying to help you test things. So why don't you start, and I'll kind of add a few more things.
Yeah, I mentioned it earlier that I've been trying to branch out and test other AI platforms besides ChatGPT. There's, Grok, there's Gemini. And so I recently had some ideas for a few different apps and tried out Firebase, which is the Google backed AI app generator. And I will say that so far, my analysis is that the Firebase is better than ChatGPT's app producing, process, let's call it. And so I don't want to go into too much about what I was actually, testing out, because those are ideas. But one of the things I've been trying out is the maker itself, and I will say that Firebase is pretty legit.
Yeah, and I think prior to that, you were using ChatGPT, and you sent me some code, and we were trying to figure out how to get online. So a couple weeks ago, I spent a good amount. I went down a rabbit hole and got like a whole setup, and GitLab and all that kind of stuff, like GitHub, and like online. Like basically figured out how to use it, because once you get all this code, you still have to figure out what do I do with it. like what's it for? Is it for a mobile app? Is it for like a web app? And they don't really tell you. But what I was fascinated with is like literally, I spent, I basically became like I wasn't delusional. Maybe I was delusional with ChatGPT, but I was literally talking to ChatGPT like, okay, I've got this code. What do I do next? Like, what's the next thing? Where do I? And they would tell me exactly the steps. I figured it all out. It took me about 5 hours, but I still figured it out and got it set up and got it working. Which for code, I didn't even
of the night.
Right, in the middle of the night, Easter.
While you're on vacation, yeah.
While I was on vacation, yes, Easter Sunday, or Saturday before Easter Sunday, or no, it was Easter Sunday. Yeah. So anyway, it was great though. It was really cool because I used to develop, and I was like, it was so, back in the day, it was harder to develop. Now you literally are talking to AI to help you figure this out. And if I had a person that was like there all the time saying, no, put it over here. No, this is what you need to do. No, like that tutor or whatever you want to call it, special help person, AI, it would be great. I mean, anybody that's coding right now, gosh, they've got a leg up.
Yeah, this morning I was creating a different app using Firebase, and what was wild was I was able to code the app, roll it out, and beta test it all within an hour. Or not beta test, that's the wrong word, but like there were some errors that I had to clean up, et cetera. So it was actually testing for errors and those sorts of things. And I did MVP in about an hour for
Yeah.
a
Wow.
pretty complex app that I've been kind of toying with for a bit. So Firebase it's impressive. I mean, it's gonna be a rocket ship. It already is. We're currently hanging on to the tail, and it's taken off with AI. So in fact, we should just rename this podcast. I mean, not rename it. Somewhat Frank's a great name, but I mean, a lot of the stuff we talk about is all AI themed at this point,
Yeah.
because we're in that time period. If we started this back in the early '80s, it would be all about personal computers. Now we're just in the AI world, I guess, right now. So it's very
Talk
exciting.
about UFOs too, and Bigfoot,
We do.
time to time.
Yeah,
Time to
definitely.
time.
Why not? It's funny because it's a good transition for what we've been watching, listening, and reading. New book out, May 6th came out. Nate Bargatze, who we got to see, Simon and I and another team member, Jessica, got to go see in Las Vegas during CES. He came out with new books, Big Dumb Eyes. It's a hilarious book about stories from a simpler mind. So not necessarily AI related, quite the opposite, but hilarious because he just tells it like it is, as far as like things he sees in the world, and from a really funny point of view and perspective that we can all relate to. So pretty good stuff.
It's funny that he wrote a book, because I know part of his shtick is how like dumb he is. I mean, that's the name, the Big Dumb Eyes.
I
And
know
then
it is funny. He talks
he
about
makes
that.
fun of himself not being able to read, and now he's written a book. So it's pretty impressive.
Yeah. So more power to him. Maybe he just used AI to
I
talk.
hope he reads for the Audible.
Yep, he does. It's great. It's just like talking. He's listening to a stand-up act basically. So good stuff. So check that out if you like a little laugh and a little escape. It's funny, but also related to like the real world stuff we do. And he loves DoorDash. I don't know if you guys know this. So he does leverage technology. He loves these like different things. It's just he tells funny stories about it, and it's great. So, all right, Jen, go ahead.
I have been watching Four Seasons. Anyone else seen that with
Yep.
Tina
I've been to
Fey?
the Four Seasons, but I've not watched it.
Right, right. So for those older, or maybe your parents, there was a movie back in 1981 called Four Seasons with Alan Alda, and I can't even remember who else, but a bunch of faces that I sort of recognized. I decided to go back, so I watched the new Four Seasons, which is not about hotels or like White Lotus, like people staying at the Four Seasons. It's literally about this group of 6 friends and their relationship through the 4 seasons of the year. And it's really, really funny. It's emotional. And so I loved it. And so I decided to go back and watch the original Four Seasons movie from 1981 with Alan Alda and others, again, like faces I sort of recognize. And you can totally see all the threads that they tried to connect and the influence on the new one. But it's amazing how storytelling has changed in that amount of time. It's still worth seeing. I thought it was funny and a really good sign of the times. And if anyone wants to get like just some really fun cultural things from the early 80s, it's a fun movie to watch.
All right, we'll check it out. I've not started that one yet. Johnny.
I'm glad you brought that up, Jen, because I watched it as well, and I didn't know that background to that. I did know Alan Alda played a small part in the new one, but it's interesting. Anyways, I've been watching. It's called Dirt. It's a web series on YouTube. It's produced by Huckberry, which Huckberry is like a clothing line or something like the outdoor clothing line, and it's about this. It's about this professional snowboarder that goes around to different areas, like either a state or a country, travels around, picks up different ingredients during the trip. It's like, I think he takes like about a week to go around the country or the state, for example, get all these different ingredients, and then they all culminate at the end. And he has a chef friend that he made on the journey. produce some sort of big feast for everybody that he's met on the trip as well. So it's really, really well done. Like cinematography is great. It's very relaxing. It's crisp and clean. And I love those. I can't get enough of them, really. I mean, they can't make them fast enough. So Dirt by Huckberry on YouTube if you get a chance.
Sounds good.
Yeah, it does sound good. Josh Rosen is the host, and he goes all around. So yeah, I'll check that. I saw that in my Instagram feed. I'd go on Huckberry sometimes to look at their stuff because they have their own brands, and then they also have others. Flint and Tinder, Jen, is on there, so they sell Flint and Tinder gear, which we know the founders of from our time in Vegas. So kind of cool that they're kind of like they're going directly through Huckberry. So check it out. We'll drop a link in the show notes. All right, Simon.
Yes, I've been watching The Last of Us season 2 on HBO. Zombie apocalypse type of show based on a video game. Really into it. Kind of makes zombie apocalypse seem like kind of fun and like exploratory. And I think I'd beeline it to like a Walmart if the apocalypse ever took place, and then just play with all the toys. So I'm really enjoying that show, and I'd highly recommend.
Is that with Pedro Pascal?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I haven't gotten into those yet. I know it's zombie related. I'll have to check those out. All right. So final thoughts. We've had a good chat here. Wanted to see. I saw an article about this. Do you all sit on the floor? Does anyone ever sit on the floor? Like,
oh yes,
hang out on the floor. It's supposed to be really, really good for you. So, as a final thought, if you haven't been sitting on the floor, try to move yourself to the floor more, and maybe try to do it every day and get some, maybe as part of your routine. But a lot of the blue zones where people are living the longest, several over 100 years old, they're sitting on the floor, they're gardening, and they're doing a lot of natural movements. All things we talked about today on this podcast. So I guess we're doing it right here on Somewhat Frank. But if you aren't doing that, maybe try to get into the sitting on the floor situation, and it could help with your longevity. Obviously everyday movements, things like that too. But so yeah, that's kind of what we're going to part with. And one more quick shout out to all the moms out there. Happy Mother's Day belated. Hope you all had a great weekend and celebration. And a quick shout out to my sis who had a big birthday this weekend too. So happy birthday, Jess. Hope you're enjoying yourself out on the islands. She went on an island escape. It looked awesome. All right, everyone doing all right. Have a great week. Have a great time. Have a great listen. And we'll be back again soon with another episode. Thanks for listening to the Somewhat Frank podcast. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe and leave us a review. We love the feedback and are grateful to have you as a listener. Have a great day.